these confiscated guns find their way back onto the streets.
Inside, there's multiple firearms laying on the ground and a broken glass from a cabinet.
Where we can protect the children and we can also protect the community.
We're preventing people from being shot. The ultimate goal is to prevent gun violence, right? And so if that is retaliatory gun violence or proactive gun violence, attacking somebody, if we prevented that from occurring, then I consider that to be successful.
Well, it is something that is affecting a large part of our city, gun violence and the trauma it leaves behind. Here are the facts about the last 5 years. Gun violence in Louisville, especially involving young people, is steadily increasing. You can see the spike we saw. Record-breaking numbers of murders during 2021. The highest recorded so far, 188 mothers, brothers, friends, and family killed in Louisville that year. And true, it has gone down since then, but never as low as it was in 2019. In 2023, so far this year, more than 30 people have been killed. One of the biggest contributors to our city's gun violence is stolen guns. The ATF released a report this year showing 70% of the guns are being used in crimes and then traced to someone other than the person who used it. That ranks second highest in the country. Isaiah Kim Martinez spoke with federal agents about what folks at home need to do to combat the trend.
One of the big takeaways of this report is how quickly guns are now going from being purchased to being used in crimes. The ATF's Louisville Field Division says the data shows concerning spikes across the board, and they believe the public should take notice.
Why is Kentucky higher, so much higher than some other states in your estimation?
I think a lot of that is probably the theft of firearms because we have so many, 4,000 a year. That's quite a few.
Acting Special Agent in Charge Robert Maynard tells me criminal gun trafficking and surging violence in Louisville go hand in hand more than ever before. That includes with a younger population, teenagers between 15 and 18 years old.
Have those numbers you just referenced risen quite a bit from where things were maybe 10 years ago?
Yes, they have. And I think that's because more people are storing their firearms in their vehicles.
The expansive report calls for firearm owners to properly secure their weapons, but it also educates people on new issues officers are seeing, including devices that can turn regular handguns into fully automatic weapons.
It can expend 30 rounds with an extended magazine in maybe 2 or 3 seconds. That is very dangerous. You add 2 or 3 firearms at the same time shooting at each other, and you're looking at 60 to 90 rounds.
We saw this problem just minutes into the new year. What police estimated to be 600 rounds fired at a Louisville apartment complex, hitting cars and homes.
When we see a report like this, for us, it goes directly to public awareness. Everybody needs to be tuned in a little bit more than they're tuned in.
Dr. Eddie Wood, CEO of the violence prevention group No More Red Dots, says the report legitimizes the crisis the city is battling.
A lot of folks, they think that they got to have a gun because everybody else has got it.
On their own, the numbers only provide a picture, but the hope is they lead to preventative action. In Louisville, Isaiah Kim Martinez, WHAS 11 on your side.
Just an hour and a half separates these two mayors, but the reality of crime couldn't be more different. Cincinnati's mayor visited Louisville this year to share how his city handles crime. The two Ohio River cities are compared in the Greater Louisville Project's latest Safer City by Design report. The report shows 60 people between the ages of 15 and 24 were murdered in Louisville in 2021. Cincinnati reported just half that number.
It's a challenge that we just continue to have to invest in.
And
we're really focused on the root cause of violence in our community, which is poverty.
Addressing the root causes of violence was exactly why more than 100 local organizations met for a gun violence summit. There, Mayor Craig Greenberg mentioned his plans to place warning labels on seized guns, as well as expanding the 911 deflection program. Here's Grace McKenna with other solutions the city came up with.
Dozens of organizations from around the city, one single mission.
We're here because we have a crisis of gun violence in our city.
The Louisville Alliance for Sustainable Gun Violence Reduction gathered them Tuesday for a collaborative summit on solutions to gun violence, while the groups themselves are doing the work.
Structural violence happened in these communities.
Organizers say the city can play a role in getting them what they need.
Macro level organizations have a lot of resources. The key is how do we get those resources to the folks that are doing the grassroots organizing.
In a kickoff message, Mayor Craig Greenberg acknowledged the need to support community community efforts through funding.
We also need to find more resources for programs like group violence intervention and for education, training, and employment programs like Evolve 502, Code Louisville, and an expanded summer work.
Other leaders, though, note despite efforts like Greenberg's plan for seized guns and the expansion of 911 deflection on policy, city hands are mostly tied.
There's very little that the city can do as far as it relates to policy, and a lot of that lays on us at the state level.
For the next 2 days, the focus here in the Ali Center is connecting and communicating.
We need to get to know each other better, understand where we can help each other, where we can join forces.
Each group reaching out.
A lot of our young people are dying, and I'm one of those young people that could have died.
Speaking out.
We're here because we've had enough, more than enough of these tragedies.
And finding where their work and goals collide.
Mayor Craig Greenberg also announced this year he is directing LMPD to remove the firing pins from all seized guns moving forward before they're turned over to the Kentucky State Police to eventually be auctioned off. The mayor's office believes this will help keep these firearms from being used in crimes again.
We recognize that this policy is just a start. It's not the complete solution, but we can't sit by while hundreds of people are murdered in Louisville every year by guns.
Kentucky State Fraternal Order of Police Vice President Ryan Straw worries efforts like these will have an impact on smaller police departments across the state. He noted money from state gun auctions largely goes to fund bulletproof vests and other police equipment. And while the mayor's administration goes after illegal guns, the FBI is trying to find the people using those firearms. Right now, FBI Louisville says they are aware of at least 20 gangs operating in our city. At least 30% of the metro's violent crime can be traced back to one of them. I talked to agents about what they're actually seeing on the streets. A barrage of gunfire outside of a Hikes Point apartment complex on New Year's Day. This shootout gang-related and an example of where local crews are operating, in this case at an apartment complex right outside of St. Matthews.
They're not just staying in their own neighborhoods committing these crimes.
Assistant Special Agent in Charge Brian Jones says the FBI has identified between 20 and 25 gangs operating in Louisville right now. Neighborhoods like Newburgh, Shawnee, and Smoketown are hotspots. In some cases, a street crew, as they're often called, will be based out of a single apartment complex, using fear to intimidate innocent people to keep quiet. And when we talk about that intimidation or that fear, what could that look like?
There was 4 individuals. They were selling drugs out of a neighborhood. They were using weapons, almost patrolling their neighborhood, patrolling the apartment complex with assault rifles.
The Ross crew, as they're known, was a family selling drugs out of 3 apartment complexes in Newburgh. Special agents say the men used these rifles to patrol the complex while drug deals were underway inside the building. During an FBI SWAT bust, agents found baggies of cocaine and crack cocaine hidden around the apartment. This month, the 4 men were sentenced to federal prison time. One gang completely eradicated, but still just a small example of a much larger issue in our city.
We see everything from 3 or 4 members that are causing significant fear, intimidation, and violence in their community, up to 20, 30, 40 individuals in a single gang.
Jones says Louisville gangs are made up of men, women, and children as young as 14 years old. And yes, investigators confirm there is gang activity happening in local schools.
Yes, we know that there are students, high school age students in this community, in Louisville, in the region, that are involved in gang activity.
ATF Special Agent in Charge Sean Morrow says the federal system isn't designed to respond to juvenile crime. But in Louisville, his agency created a path to get involved because they are so concerned about the high rates of violent crime traced back to kids. Morrow says they are now working hand in hand with JCPS every time a gun is found inside a school.
What we want to do is figure out where it came from, how it made its way into the hands of that juvenile, and ultimately how it made its way into the hands of the school.
And special agents say teens affiliated with street gangs are responsible for much of the random crime reported outside of schools. Over the last year, police have arrested minors in major cases, from carjackings to arson to murder. This surveillance video from a home in a
Louisville neighborhood off the outer loop, showing 4 people who appear to be teens walking through the backyard. 2 of them walk up to the porch with what looks like a gun in their hand, checking to see if the door is locked. And here, a car stolen from a delivery driver while he was picking up food just feet away.
So for many years in Louisville, city leaders weren't talking about gangs, police leaders weren't talking about gangs. Recently, that's changed. Why do you think that is?
Our investigations collaboratively uncover that there is gang activity, and the statistics show that there are. And so for the city leaders to deny that is just not reality. And so I think that we're to a point where the public expects to know what's going on in the city.
And the city did create a program specifically to address group-related or gang-related violence in Louisville. The strategy, called Group Violence Intervention, or GVI, has led to a 35% reduction in homicides in certain cities. In Louisville's second year of the program, homicides decreased 10%. Focus investigator Travis Breeze tells us how the program works in other parts of the country and what some of the hurdles have been for the Metro.
Mayor Greg Fisher launched Group Violence Intervention, or GVI, in October 2020. The idea is to have direct contact with violent street groups or gangs. As we told you last month, the FBI is aware of 20 or more active gangs in the Metro Louisville area. GVI reaches people in 2 ways: call-ins and custom notifications. Custom notifications are done by a small group of police and faith leaders who go door to door, meeting with people that are at the highest risk of being shot. A call-in is a meeting at a neutral location where known gang members listen to a message from city leaders and parents of shooting victims. I spoke to several people within GVI who say they are not reaching enough gang members through call-ins and feel the city needs to refocus to get more results.
This spot where we're at, this is where my son received his death sentence, and then I'll receive a life sentence.
Nothing could ever prepare you for the death of your own son.
It's all taken away from you in a matter of seconds, and you're weak, you're vulnerable, you have no control of your emotions.
In December 2012, Kenneth Forbes Jr. was shot and killed in Shively.
Days after, months, weeks, months after, I still had a responsibility to still take care of, my mother, my son.
Forbes Sr. says he turned to his faith after the shooting and wanted to use his son's death to help others. He formed a support group for other grieving families and has spoken at 2 call-in meetings for GVI.
I sold all the pictures of my son, and when the meeting was over with, each and every last one of those individuals came up and hugged me and said, "I'm sorry for your loss."
The city has held 3 call-ins, and we're told the combined attendance has been somewhere between 13 and 18 violent group members.
To this juncture, we've not had the success with call-ins that we need.
The National Network for Safe Communities, which invented GVI, says Louisville is handling call-in attendance differently than every other jurisdiction. The Kentucky Department of Corrections says it can only mandate an offender to go to a call-in if they were convicted of a gang-related crime. And to date, no offender identified by GVI has been on supervision for a gang-related crime. Therefore, probation and parole has not been able to require attendance, but does encourage participation. Josh Crawford, who is on the GVI Governance Committee, doesn't understand why we have this restriction when other cities like Baltimore can require anyone on probation or parole to attend.
Most states and jurisdictions deal with this pretty straightforward and reasonably. We would be not just an outlier, but we would be a sole outlier.
Other than attendance, Crawford believes there was a lack of coordination within GVI under the Fisher administration and says it was not a central part of the policing strategy.
LMPD is doing that as it relates to independent investigations, but it's not necessarily information that is being transferred from GVI call-ins and things that are happening after that are then resulting in enforcement actions.
Baltimore is in its 3rd iteration of a GVI-type program. Civilian Director Jeremy Biddle says the strategy requires total buy-in from city leaders and law enforcement.
For this strategy to work,
You cannot look at it as a program or a boutique project. It's a different way of doing business. And characterizing it as anything other than that is, to be honest, it's problematic.
Biddle says they have found the custom notifications more effective than the call-ins. This is video of what a custom notification would look like. Louisville has done 267 custom notifications, and the city says only 20 people were shot at again or committed a crime after their visit. Mayor Greenberg's office denied our request to speak to Civilian Director Dondre Jefferson, but Deputy Mayor for Public Safety David James says the custom notifications are working.
We're preventing people from being shot. The ultimate goal is to prevent gun violence, right? And so if that is retaliatory gun violence or proactive gun violence, attacking somebody, if we prevented that from occurring, then I consider that to be successful.
James says GVI is in a reorganization right now, and they are speaking to each agency to determine how to improve it.
I think we're headed in a positive direction. I think we've been headed in a positive direction, but the trajectory hasn't been what it needs to be.
We're not going away. And I want the shooters and whoever's involved in these horrific murders to understand that we're not going away.
In Louisville, Travis Breeze, WHAS 11 on your side.
This session, lawmakers passed a bill which would reopen Jefferson County's Juvenile Justice Center. Part of the bill requires youth charged with a serious violent crime to remain in custody until they're seen by a judge. The detention center will give them a place to do that. But there are organizations in Louisville trying to step in for young people before it leads to that. One of those programs, The Spot, is getting federal funding, and Bobby McSwine shows us how it's already changing lives.
Hold on, I'm not done.
Cashmon Usher had to hold the applause and lay out her many accomplishments.
I've also earned a certification for life insurance. I'm an agent, an independent agent, y'all. Now y'all can clap. Now y'all can clap.
It was a moment that took hard work, but she was determined to see it through. She completed classes at The Spot, a program on Jefferson Community Technical College's campus that prepares young adults and teens for jobs and college. And she's not the only one.
I was going down the wrong path.
But after some motivation, Jacoby Daughtry enrolled and completed the program. He just applied to Simmons College of Kentucky.
I feel real good about myself, and I'm not finished. You know, I feel like I got a lot of more learning and a lot of more growing to do.
The Spot is now getting a $700,000 federal grant, which will support an additional 100 people who want to attend. It's a collaborative effort between several organizations, including Kentuckiana Works. Mayor Craig Greenberg says this is one of many programs that can help curb youth violence in the city.
The violence that we have seen in our city is heartbreaking and unacceptable. We must do everything possible as a community to work together on solutions.
Metro Corrections Director Jerry Collins says this program reduces recidivism. As of the second half of last year, no program attendees went back to jail.
Young folks come in the system and they can't get out of the system, and this is such a great opportunity for Louisville to really get ahead of this problem.
Ahead and on top.
And we thank you for joining us for this special presentation of Crime in Louisville Right Now. I'm Shay McAllister.